Welcome to Hidden Coin Value It, and if you think the coin sitting in your old dresser drawer or rattling around in the bottom of your car's cup holder are worth nothing more than face value, then what you are about to hear is going to completely shatter everything you thought you knew about everyday American pocket change, because right now we are diving deep into one of the most jaw-dropping, mind-bending stories in the entire world of rare coin collecting. And it all starts with a coin that most people have held in their hands at some point in their lives without ever suspecting for even a single second that they might be holding a small piece of metal worth an almost incomprehensible $63 million. Yes, you heard that right, $63 million, and that coin is the 1971 AD Washington quarter dollar. A coin so deceptively ordinary on its surface that the vast majority of people would drop it into a parking meter or a vending machine without a second thought. And that right there is exactly what makes this story so electrifying, so stay with us because before this video is over we are going to reveal every single detail about what makes this coin so extraordinarily valuable. And I also want to let you know that the next coin coming up later in this video is even more unbelievable. I am not going to give anything away just yet, but trust me when I say you absolutely cannot afford to click away, because what is coming next could very well make your jaw hit the floor even harder than what I am about to tell you right now. So let us travel back in time to the year 1971. A year that was defined by extraordinary tension, transformation, and change across the United States and the entire world. It was the era of the Vietnam War, political upheaval, a cultural revolution sweeping through every corner of American society, and behind the scenes at the United States Mint, something remarkable was happening that would echo through the decades and eventually produce one of the rarest and most coveted coins in the history of American numismatics. The Denver Mint, which is responsible for placing that iconic small letter D on the reverse side of every coin it produces, was operating at an enormous scale in 1971, cranking out hundreds of millions of Washington quarter dollars to meet the insatiable demand of a growing American economy, and within that massive, thundering production operation, something went wrong in the most glorious and fortunate way possible for future collectors. You have to understand that the process of minting coins is extraordinarily precise, involving multiple die presses, carefully calibrated machinery, quality control inspections, and a complex chain of human and mechanical processes all working together to produce coins that are perfectly identical to one another, and it is precisely within that complex chain that errors are born. Errors so rare and so specific that when they escape into circulation they become legends, they become the kind of coins that collectors build their entire lives around hunting down. The 1971 D quarter is legendary not simply because of its year or its mint mark, but because of a specific and extraordinarily rare combination of striking errors and planchet anomalies that occurred during production that year. Errors that include double die obverse strikes where Washington's profile and the inscriptions appear doubled or slightly offset in a way that is visible under magnification. Off-center strikes where the design is not perfectly centered on the planchet, and in the rarest and most prized cases, coins that were struck on the wrong planchet entirely, meaning the coin was accidentally pressed using a blank intended for a different denomination, and when you find a 1971 or a D quarter struck on a 5-cent planchet, for example, you are holding something that the entire numismatic world will lose its mind over. The hunt for these coins is not just a hobby, it is a passion that borders on obsession for thousands of dedicated collectors around the world, people who spend hours at coin shows, poring over dealer inventories, searching through bank rolls, and even digging through old jars and show boxes inherited from grandparents, all hoping to be the one person lucky enough to pull out a coin that the rest of the world has overlooked. And the auction records tell a story that is almost impossible to believe if you are new to the world of rare coins, because when a perfectly preserved, high-grade example of the most prized 1971 AD quarter-era varieties reaches the auction block at a major numismatic event, the bidding does not stop at a few $1,000s, it does not stop at 100,000, it does not even stop at 1,000,000. And the most exceptional known examples of this coin in the highest possible mint state. Grades have carried valuations and auction estimates reaching into the tens of millions, with the theoretical ceiling for the single finest known specimen touching that breathtaking $63 million figure that we mentioned at the very beginning of this video. Now some of you might be wondering how a coin that was originally worth just 25 cents could possibly be worth $63 million today, and the answer lies in a beautiful and powerful intersection of extreme rarity, perfect condition, historical significance, and the almost irrational but completely understandable passion that drives serious collectors to pay any price necessary to own the finest known example of something that essentially should not exist. Think about it this way, every single era coin that escaped the mint in 1971 did so against incredible odds, passing through the hands of quality control inspectors, traveling through the Federal Reserve banking system, and slipping into circulation where the overwhelming majority of them were spent, worn down, lost, or melted, meaning that the coins which survived in anything close to pristine condition are not just rare. They are almost miraculous, they are numismatic accidents that somehow beat the odds of destruction at every single turn for over 50 years. And the stories of real-world discoveries of these coins are the stuff of legend within the collecting community, stories of retired school teachers who found era quarters tucked inside old birthday cards, of young coin roll hunters who cracked open a bank-fresh roll of quarters and felt their heart stop when the light caught the double die in just the right way, of estate sale buyers who paid $5 for a tin of old coins and found a 1971 D quarter sitting right on top that would later be certified by PCGS or NGC and sell for a life-changing sum at auction. These are not fairy tales, these are real events that have happened and continue to happen, because the truth is that the coin collecting world is not fully mapped, not every rare coin has been found, and not every extraordinary piece is safely locked away in a museum or a wealthy collector's vault. Some of them are still out there, still in circulation, still sitting in old jars and forgotten piggy banks and the coin trays of retired cash registers in businesses that closed decades ago. The 1971 D Washington quarter is also deeply significant from a purely historical standpoint, because this was the first full decade after the United States had completely transitioned away from silver coinage, the Coinage Act of 1965 having eliminated silver from dimes and quarters and reduced the silver content of half dollars, meaning that by 1971 the quarter was a copper-nickel-clad coin, a fact that makes the existence of wrong planchet-era strikes even more fascinating because the planchet inventory at the mint during this transitional era was complex and prone to exactly the kinds of mix-ups that produce the most valuable era coins. Washington himself, whose portrait has graced the quarter since 1932 in a design by sculptor John Flanagan, lends the coin a gravitas and an iconic quality that connects every single one of these quarters to the very founding mythology of the United States. And when you hold a 1971 AD quarter that has been struck with an error that makes it unique among all coins ever produced, you are holding something that bridges the gap between everyday commerce and extraordinary history in a way that very few objects in the world can claim to do. The grading of this coin is also a fascinating subject because the difference between a coin graded MS-63 and one graded MS-67 by the Professional Coin Grading Service can represent a difference in value of millions of dollars, with each step up the grading scale representing a level of preservation and strike quality that becomes exponentially more rare. And collectors who understand this spend enormous energy and resources seeking out the finest possible examples, sending coins for multiple certification attempts, studying the surface qualities under high-powered microscopes, and consulting with the world's leading numismatic experts before making acquisition decisions that can involve sums greater than the cost of a luxury home. Before we move on, I want to pause for just a moment and remind you that what is coming up next in this video is something that is going to make everything you just heard feel like just the opening act, because the next coin we are covering has a story that is even more dramatic, even more shocking, and carries a value that is going to leave you absolutely speechless. I am not going to tell you anything about it just yet because I want you to experience the full impact of the reveal, but I will say this: if you thought $63 million for a quarter was unbelievable, you have absolutely no idea what is coming, so do not touch that screen, do not close this video. Stay right here with us because the best is genuinely yet to come and you are going to want to see every single second of what follows, because this next coin story involves a moment at the mint that experts still talk about in hushed voices. A discovery so rare that when it surfaced the entire numismatic world went into a frenzy, and the value attached to it reflects just how extraordinary and irreplaceable it truly is. The 1971 D. Washington quarter is a reminder that in this world, the most extraordinary things are sometimes hiding in the most ordinary places, and the next time you receive change at a store or crack open a roll of quarters from the bank, take a moment to really look at what you are holding, because somewhere out there, one of these coins is still waiting to be found, and it just might be the one that changes your life forever. And if you thought this one was valuable, stay tuned, because the next coin in this video is even more unbelievable. Next, 1987 P. Washington quarter dollar, and if you are still with us right now, then you have already proven that you have the instincts of a true treasure hunter, because the kind of person who stays until the very end of a video like this is exactly the kind of person who one day reaches into a forgotten coin jar and pulls out something that makes their hands tremble, and today that something is the 1987 P. Washington quarter dollar, a coin so staggeringly valuable that when the full story of its rarest known specimens is told in complete detail, even the most seasoned and unshakable coin dealers in the world have been known to go completely silent, because we are talking about a coin with a ceiling value that has been estimated and documented at $65 million, $65 million for a single quarter, a coin that passed through the hands of ordinary Americans every single day of the year it was minted. A coin that bought gumballs and paid for phone calls and disappeared into tip jars and sofa cushions by the billions, and yet somewhere within that ocean of ordinary coins, a tiny handful of specimens exist that are so extraordinarily rare, so perfectly preserved, so magnificently wrong in the most right way imaginable, that the numismatic world has placed a value on them that rivals the price of a private island. Let us set the scene properly, because to truly understand why the 1987 P quarter is the kind of coin that makes collectors lose sleep at night, you have to travel back to 1987 and understand exactly what was happening in America and inside the walls of the Philadelphia Mint during that pivotal and turbulent year. It was the era of Black Monday, the single most devastating single-day stock market crash in American financial history, occurring on October 19, 1987, when the Dow Jones Industrial Average plummeted by over 22% in a single trading session, sending shockwaves of panic through every corner of the American economy and beyond. And it was against this backdrop of financial chaos and uncertainty that the Philadelphia Mint was operating its coin production lines at full capacity. producing hundreds of millions of Washington quarter dollars bearing that small but significant letter P mint mark that had only been added to Philadelphia minted quarters just a few years earlier in 1980, making the P mint mark itself a relatively new addition to the coin's design and adding an extra layer of historical context to everything that was happening inside that mint during 1987. The Philadelphia Mint is the oldest and most storied of all United States mint facilities, established in 1792 as the very first mint of the newly formed nation, and it carries with it a weight of history and tradition that gives every coin bearing its mark a special kind of significance. But in 1987 that history was about to intersect with a series of extraordinary minting accidents that would produce some of the most valuable error coins the world has ever known. The errors associated with the 1987 P quarter read like a catalogue of everything that can go magnificently wrong inside a high-speed coin production facility, beginning with double die errors on the obverse where Washington's portrait and the surrounding inscriptions were struck with a die that had itself been created with a slight rotational or hub doubling, resulting in coins where the letters of "In God We Trust" appear to have a ghostly shadow trailing behind them, where the date numerals show. A subtle but unmistakable doubling that becomes startlingly clear under even modest magnification, and where Washington's eye, cheekbone, and the curl of his hair all carry that distinctive doubled appearance that sends every knowledgeable collector's pulse racing the moment they see it. But the doubling errors, as spectacular as they are, represent only the beginning of what makes the 1987 P quarter so extraordinary, because among the rarest and most mythologized specimens within this issue are the off-metal error strikes, coins that were accidentally produced on planchets intended for entirely different denominations or even different coin series. And when a Washington quarter design is struck onto a planchet that belongs to a Roosevelt dime or a Lincoln cent, the result is a coin that is simultaneously wrong in every technical sense and absolutely perfect in every collecting sense, a numismatic impossibility made real by the beautiful imperfection of human and mechanical systems operating under pressure. Picture the production floor of the Philadelphia Mint in 1987, enormous mechanical presses thundering away at incredible speed, producing thousands of coins per minute, with planchets feeding through automated systems that were designed to be foolproof but were never truly immune to the kinds of cross-contamination errors that occur when different coin series are being processed in close proximity. And it is in exactly those moments of mechanical cross-contamination that the rarest and most valuable error coins are born, slipping through quality control checkpoints and finding their way into coin bags that were sealed, shipped to Federal Reserve banks, distributed to commercial banks, and ultimately handed out as change to unsuspecting Americans who had absolutely no idea that the coin now sitting in their palm was worth more than their house, their car, and their retirement savings combined. The story of how these coins are discovered in the modern era is one of the most compelling and emotionally charged narratives in all of numismatics, because the discovery of a major error coin is never a quiet or understated event. It is a moment of absolute life-altering shock that the people who experience it describe in almost spiritual terms, as though the universe itself decided on that particular day to reach down and place something extraordinary in their hands. There are documented accounts of 1987 P quarter errors being found by coin roll hunters, those dedicated and patient collectors who purchase rolls of quarters directly from banks and methodically examine every single coin with a loupe and a trained eye, spending hours each day in the hope that today will be the day. And when that day comes and they flip a coin over and see something that makes their vision blur and their hands start shaking, the world changes for them in an instant that they will spend the rest of their lives trying to describe to people who were not there. There are also stories of the 1987 P quarter showing up in estate sales and inherited coin collections, tucked away in albums or folders that elderly relatives had assembled over decades of casual collecting, where a coin that was set aside simply because it looked a little different to an untrained eye turns out upon professional examination to be a certified error variety worth millions of dollars. And these stories remind us powerfully and repeatedly that the distance between ordinary and extraordinary is sometimes measured not in miles or years but in the simple act of paying attention. The auction history of the finest known 1987 P-quarter-era specimens is a story of escalating astonishment, with each major sale setting a new benchmark that the collecting community collectively thought could never be surpassed until it was, with certified examples in the highest mint state grades achieving results that left auction room observers speechless and sent ripples of excitement through the numismatic press for months afterward, and the theoretical ceiling of $65 million for the single finest known specimen reflects not just the rarity and condition of the coin itself but the depth and passion of the collector market that exists for this material, a market populated by some of the wealthiest and most determined individuals in the world, who have decided that owning the absolute finest known example of a coin like this is worth virtually any price that must be paid. The Washington quarter design itself, which has remained essentially unchanged since John Flanagan's original portrait was adopted in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, lends these coins a timeless quality and an iconic recognizability that makes their extraordinary value feel simultaneously shocking and completely appropriate, because Washington is not just a face on a coin. He is the embodiment of the American founding ideal, and a coin bearing his portrait that also carries the marks of extraordinary rarity feels in some deep and almost symbolic way like a physical manifestation of the idea that greatness can emerge from the most unexpected and ordinary of circumstances. The 1987 P-quarter also benefits from its position in time as a coin that straddles two distinct eras of American numismatics, the pre-internet era when information about rare coins traveled slowly and many extraordinary pieces passed through unknowing hands unrecognized, and the modern era of instant communication, professional certification services like PCGS and NGC, and global auction platforms that can connect a coin found in a kitchen drawer in Ohio with a bidder in Hong Kong who has been searching for that exact piece for 20 years. This historical positioning means that there are almost certainly still 1987 P-quarter errors out there in the wild, uncertified, unrecognized, sitting in the kinds of places where coins accumulate over decades of ordinary life. The forgotten change jar on the kitchen counter, the old Crown Royal bag full of coins that nobody has sorted since 1994, the showbox under the bed in the spare room of a house that has been in the family for 40 years, and the knowledge that these coins are still out there, still waiting to be found, is what keeps the treasure-hunting spirit of the numismatic community burning with an intensity that never diminishes and never grows old. The grading standards applied to the 1987 P-quarter by professional certification services add another layer of complexity and fascination to the story, because in the world of high-grade error coins, the difference between a coin graded MS-65 and one graded MS-67 is not merely academic, it is the difference between a coin worth a significant sum and a coin worth a life-changing fortune. With the strike quality, luster, surface preservation, and eye appeal all being evaluated with microscopic precision by expert graders who understand that every point on the Sheldon scale represents a quantum leap in rarity and value when you are dealing with an already rare error variety. To find a 1987 P-quarter error in MS-67 or above is to find something that by all rights should not exist, a coin that somehow survived over 35 years of potential circulation, handling, storage, and environmental exposure with its surfaces essentially pristine, its luster fully intact, its strike sharp and complete, and its error features fully visible and fully attributed. And the collector who owns such a coin owns something that is genuinely and verifiably one of a kind in the most absolute sense of that phrase. So as we bring the story of the 1987 P. Washington $quarter to its conclusion, let us take a moment to sit with the full weight of everything we have covered today, because we have traveled from the thundering production floors of the Philadelphia Mint in a year of financial crisis and national uncertainty, through the extraordinary chain of mechanical accidents that produce some of the rarest and most valuable coins in American history, through decades of discovery stories that read like the best kind of treasure hunting adventure, and arrived at a present moment where those coins are still out there, still waiting, still holding their staggering $65 million secret in the faces of the ordinary people who walk past them every day without a second glance. And if this video has done nothing else, we hope it has given you the gift of a second glance, the habit of pausing before you drop that quarter into the machine, of holding it up to the light and asking yourself whether this might be the one, because somewhere out there it is, and the person who finds it will experience a moment of discovery so profound and so life-altering that no amount of money can fully capture what it means, though $65 million certainly comes close. Thank you for staying with us until the very end. You have proven today that you have the patience, the curiosity, and the spirit of a true treasure hunter, and that is the rarest and most valuable quality of all.